Okay, yes. All right. Hello, everyone. We are live. Sorry we are late. You know the drill. So hi everyone. I can't see who's in the chat yet. I'm just waiting for it to load. Can you see the chat? My phone's super slow. I'm in a basement, by the way. Oh, and I apologize for the last live because that's exactly what happened. Sometimes my phone will freeze up and I can't do anything. So hopefully that doesn't happen tonight. But if it does, Mr. Smith, you are a managing moderator. Not sure what that means, but hopefully that means you can end it if you need to.
Me either, but we'll find out, won't we?
We will find out. We will find out.
Yeah, no,
So I can't see who's in the chat, but if you guys, I'm sure everyone knows who Mr. Smith is, but he is an awesome former police officer that changed my mind about, police because I thought that they were all corrupt. And well, I still think that, but he's not a cop anymore.
Hey,
So.
Roscoe one, thanks for joining.
Hi, Roscoe. I left his description, or sorry, I left the link to his channel in the chat. If you are not subscribed to him, which I'm sure most of you are, please do so. And every now and then, like we have really good conversations, and every now and then I'll say to him, like, "Can I interview you?" Because like I just think it's I like picking his brain about stuff. He has a different outlook on stuff, like a dual outlook. You know what I mean?
Yep. William and David James, thanks for joining as well.
Hello, everyone in the chat. I'm trying to see, but I really need new glasses. These are not working.
I'm going back and forth between the StreamYard and the YouTube, so trying to manage the chat as well. But yeah. So what's going on, Kim?
Not much. So like, afternoons kind of sucks for the social life. So I apologize that I'm always late and I always miss friggin' everything. But I thought that it would be good because I've been asking you for a while if you would have time and would be interested in doing an interview and just talking about, some random stuff. Because I like picking your brain about stuff.
Right. Yes, that's right. You wanted to interview me, and we were talking about something else, and I totally forgot about that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's our interview. It's casual, it's laid back, it's not formal by any means.
No, that's fine.
It's basically like two friends talking, sharing stories and things like that. And you have a unique perspective because now you're one of us. So you have like the former law enforcement background, and then you have like just the everyday citizen background. So now the best part about that is that you are able to speak freely and you don't have to worry about any sort of backlash, because that's one of the things that I do hear very much from there's this other channel that I watch, and a lot of them complain about the admin, which I don't know if you can relate to that aspect of it or not. But also, a lot of people are afraid to speak up because fear of retribution on their jobs. So
And
that kind of sucks.
that's exactly true. I've actually said that a couple times now that I've been retired. Shit, October 1st will be 5 years. But yeah, I know October 1st, 2019 is when I retired. But yeah,
Wow.
30 years doing that, and they would tell you like you can't, like social media, you can't do certain things. They had policies and things like that in place even before the whole anti-police movement thing started, the whole defund the police thing. There were actually policies and things in place that said, hey, you can't represent this law enforcement agency, no matter who it was, federal, state, local, whatever. You can't represent us, or personal opinions politically or anything on social media. And a lot of dummies did. A lot of dummies were like, "Oh, it's my First Amendment right." Well, actually, it's not. You're not protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States doing that stuff. And a lot of them will get fired and disciplined and things like that. But once you're separated from them, once you're retired or you quit or you're even fired, and I retired. I didn't quit. I wasn't fired. I retired. And I still get paid first every month by them. But yeah, so it is, if any active, I don't care if you're just, it doesn't have to be just law enforcement, a cop. It could be a
Mhm.
firefighter, EMT, a nurse, a
Yep.
doctor.
First responder. Yeah.
It could be someone that works on Wall Street. If you
Mhm.
speak out negatively about your profession or your employer on
Mhm.
social media, if they have a policy in place, they can say "F you," you're in trouble, and they will dictate in their policies and procedures how they can discipline you, all the way up from, suspension, deducting pay, to all the termination, being fired. They can do that because you are not protected in the United States under the
Mhm.
First Amendment,
Mhm.
uh, for doing that stuff, because you're representing your employer. You're not just representing yourself, you're representing somebody else. So uh, it's not it's not free speech, complete free speech, because you're held accountable based upon your professional association. So it is what
Now,
it is.
is that just when you're in the uniform, or is that at all times?
No, it doesn't matter if you're in uniform or not. If I say, "Hey, I am officer so and so with this agency," whether you're federal, state, local, like I said, it doesn't matter. If I'm so and so, I'm this officer, I'm wearing stuff like this. This is my biker stuff, right? Not
Mhm.
a police uniform. And if I
Yeah.
was told a job and I said, "Well, I'm I'm with," this is stupid, but it's an example. I'm with West Coast Choppers Police Department, and I say, "Fuck Biden," right? Then my then my department would be like, "You can't, that's political, you can't do that, and you're gonna be suspended for 2 weeks without pay, or we're gonna
Whoa.
fire you," or whatever they want. They can do that. They can
Whoa.
do that in the States.
That's
'Cause
insanity.
that's not my right to free speech, because I'm representing my employer, whether they're a government agency or not, it doesn't matter. Uh,
Right.
they could be a private company, but I cannot represent them and bring discredit to them as a government agency or a private employer. You just can't do that. It's not protected under free speech in the Constitution. It's just not. So, is what it is
Hmm.
in the
That's
States.
interesting.
Again,
Yeah, no, no. Well, hey, our Constitution doesn't really exist. It's not very strong. It's certainly not as strong as the American Constitution, I'll tell you that. So there's this one channel that I do follow, and I
Mhm.
wanted to ask your opinion because this seems to be a common theme the more I watch their show.
Sure.
And through your law enforcement experience at any wherever at any time,
Mhm.
um if one of your like coworkers or someone of that nature had say PTSD and they needed time off, was that an issue by any chance? Because from this other channel that I watch, the admin outright refused to provide that to the officers, and I was
That
wondering
that
if that was like a common thing.
that's a good question, because it depends on where you work and what the resources are. So when I worked for a small town um,
Mm-hmm.
police department, those
Mm-hmm.
resources weren't there. They were there when you got hired. Like, you had to be psychologically
Right.
evaluated, things like that, just to get the job. But if you had an issue, you
Mm-hmm.
had to seek out assistance privately. Where I ended up going with it was an extremely large agency, a city, I'm sorry, county, like deep border DC agency, Washington
Mm-hmm.
DC agency. They had those resources already established. They were part of the system, part of the department, part of the county, they were there. So if you're like, "Hey, I need to talk to somebody," to be like, "Okay, well, go talk to the police department psychologist or psychiatrist." We had both. And
Right.
those that don't know the difference, you can Google that yourselves.
Right.
But you go talk to them, one or the other, and
Mm-hmm.
then roll from there. And if you didn't want to use those resources, our union or fraternal
Yep.
order police had other resources to direct you to say, hey, you can call here and go there instead. So
Hmm.
it just depends on where you work. Like if you're a small place, they generally don't have those resources. If you're a large place, they do. Usually. Usually.
So, uh, this one channel, I've talked about it with you in the past. Two Fired
Mhm,
Cops. I think they're hilarious.
mhm,
But one of the things that Dakota, stop. One of the things that they talk about, and they have guests on and stuff, former law enforcement. But from what I hear from every single person, no matter what force or what position they held, if one of their, fellow coworkers needed time off for that,
mhm.
almost 9 times out of 10 they were denied. And like, I can't believe in today's day and age that, especially in that type of work, um that they would deny it. Because I mean, like, the one guy, for instance, said, if you take that time off, that's career suicide. And it's like, are you insane? Like, it's a mental health issue. Like, I mean, because of the job, don't you want your people at top shape? Like, I was blown away when I heard that. But the more
Yes.
guests that they have on their show, the more it's a common theme.
No, I can relate to that from a small department perspective because I was there, but I was also in the large agency perspective, and the large agency does provide those resources to you, so you can do it
Mhm.
without even reporting it to your um, superiors, so to speak. You can just do it, and it doesn't they don't even know about it, type of thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as far as leave, from the large agencies perspective, there's policies and things like that that are in place that allow you to do that. They allow you to use. We had a bunch of different types of leave we could take, whether it's
Yeah.
personal, sick, family leave, just annual vacation leave, whatever, things like that that you could apply towards or to use to towards getting that type of counseling and things like that. But yeah, from a small agency perspective, or and I'm kind of hinting at things about what we were talking
Hmm.
about from a
Yep.
larger entity, working
Yep.
for a larger entity, but in a small area, small
Yep. Yep.
agency, you may not have those exact same resources, even though you're in a larger um, umbrella agency, to put it
Right.
the way.
I don't know how large, like, how many, they employed per se, but
Mhm.
like, from, the more I listen, because they do like a once a week at least podcast, and it's very interesting. And obviously, as time goes on, you start to learn more and more. And then,
Mhm.
as I said, they have guests on and stuff like that. But like, first of all, not only do I find it like absolutely friggin' baffling to me that they're outright denying, saying like, no, you cannot, which I don't even know who they think they're to say that. But secondly, the one guy was off, and he was a canine cop.
Mhm.
And while he was off, like, they put him through hoops. Like, the impression that I get from this guy, and I can relate to this on a major level, is like, he's one of those personalities that you love or hate. And like, if they foresee you as a problem, they're gonna make your life hell. So from my opinion, and I could be wrong, but he took the leave. He was a canine handler, and they even took his freaking dog from him.
I've seen that happen, and yeah,
That's like, nobody's taking my dog anywhere. Like, not, no. Like, I mean, I just don't understand. Like, and you think that they would want their cops in like top performance, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if this is gonna help this person, I just don't understand. And how can they honestly think that you can do a job like that and not be affected in one way, shape, or form?
hold on one second. Hold that thought. I was just someone else in chat said to let you know if you can check your block list. Someone, MRA, Mob Rats, Mob Rat Hunter thinks he's accidentally blocked.
No.
He was
Can you
supposed.
check? You have moderator status.
He was
Because
supposed
I
to
can't
be.
check on my. I think I might have a rogue wrench because Jason, Stormmoon, I can't remember how to say his last name. He is blocked, and I can see it on my phone when I go into the background of the studio. But when I try to remove him from the block list, it won't, like, my phone isn't big enough to be able to do that. And I didn't block him. I like that guy. I think he's hilarious. So I certainly didn't block him. I don't know who did. Are you able to go back and see? I don't know what a managing moderator can do.
I don't either. I'm trying to figure it out now, though.
That sucked. Because I sure didn't block him.
No, I know I didn't for sure.
I did see his comment. He left a comment on one of my videos. And that was, I want to say today or yesterday. And I seen it. But I don't see him in the chat right now. So that.
Yeah, he's been trying. Carol Quill said he's been trying to come in and can't back over it. I'm looking, Carol. I will look into it. Kim will look into it. I'm having trouble. I've never been a managing moderator before, so
Me neither. I don't even really know what that means. But I will get my laptop out because I need my laptop because my phone is not big enough to allow me to get over, because I can remove him, but then when you have to slide it over to save the change, and for some stupid reason, no matter what I do, I can't slide my phone over far enough to save it. So I feel bad. I certainly didn't do it. Please let him know that I didn't do that, and I will fix it as soon as possible.
I do not see an option for me to. She's going to let him know. I do not see.
How the hell are people getting blocked? I don't block anyone. I don't get it. But when I was in there, I did see a name that I didn't recognize, and I thought, how the hell did this person get a wrench in my chat when I don't even know who they are?
We'll get it figured out. I don't know if it'll be right now because I
can't do it while I'm live. Because I'm on StreamYards, and if I pull up YouTube, you'll get this massive feedback, and I'll deafen everybody. But I will get it fixed, and I feel bad.
Well, that was going to be the other question. I had it blocked on StreamYard or YouTube or both. Like I know, like
I'm thinking YouTube, but I'm not sure.
All right,
that sucks. How does that happen?
You keep talking. I'm going to go in the background onto YouTube on a different window to see if I can figure this out.
Okay, maybe you can see them on your. I don't understand it, but that's the second person, and both of them. I like the dudes. They've done nothing wrong to me ever. So I have a rogue wrench who I don't recognize the name, and I have two people blocked that I have not blocked, and I just got I just moved. So my laptop is somewhere. I will find it this weekend though, because I plan to go through this house like the Tasmanian devil and get things completely 100% organized. So I apologize. Please pass my apology along to him, and I will try to get it fixed this weekend when I come across my laptop, because I have tried to fix it from my phone with no luck. So that sucks. I don't know how it's happening, but it certainly wasn't me. The only other thing I could think of is somebody accidentally hit it, but I don't even see anything in like StreamYards, because it would show me. Well, I don't know if it would show me in StreamYards, but it would say like so and so blocked someone, right? Like it usually would tell you. So I don't know. It's a mystery, but I will fix it as soon as I can. Thank you for letting me know, Carol. That's crap. That makes me mad. Like, God, I don't mind if people use their wrenches for, valid reasons, but I don't know. And I don't know how people get a rogue wrench, because there's a name in there that I do not recognize. So maybe that's the culprit. I have no idea. I really don't know. I'm certainly no expert when it comes to this stuff. And oh, by the way, I also apologize for my last live stream because, like I said before, I'm in a basement and right behind me is a cement wall and it blocks out the signal really badly. And that's what happened when I was on with Carol and with Mr. Smith. And it took me some time to be able to even log on to be able to end the live. So that's why I made Mr. Smith a moderator. Hopefully that it doesn't happen again. But if it does, I hope that he would be able to end the live because that sucks. And I also didn't realize that I had music playing the whole time. So, like I've said many times, do not expect professionalism over here. Far from it. Expect the opposite. I'll be honest. I'm always honest. So yeah. What else is there? There was something else that I wanted to talk about, but I was thinking of it and I can't recall what it was. It'll come back to me. I'll be like trying to go to sleep and I'll be like, oh yeah. But one thing I've noticed that's different on the StreamYard side of things is it never used to show me before the moderators in blue on StreamYards. I could only see that on the YouTube side. But I've noticed the last couple of times that I've used StreamYards, I see the moderators in blue. So that's kind of different. But I don't want to be pressing buttons because you never know what I might screw up while I'm playing around. So hopefully Mr. Smith can figure it out. I gave him moderator status because he's far more technologically savvy than I am. I am definitely no Edward Snowden.
All right.
There he is.
I think I have one way. I'm going to post it in the chat to go for
Okay.
you as the channel
Okay.
owner. So if you go to his channel, there it should be it right there.
Okay.
Look, there should be something. Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
There should be something once you open up that page with his channel. It's Mob Rat Hunter MRH and not parentheses, but if you go there, it'll show should be a little flag, and it'll show if he has been flagged, blocked, that type of thing. I can't do it. I tried.
Okay, let me see. It's probably going to boot me out, I'm sure. Whoops. What's that? Oops. Oh, shitballs. You know what? It just highlights the comment. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, he's been on here since 2016. So
yeah, he was in here the other night, and like I said, I'm pretty sure it was today that he left a comment, and I seen the comment. So how the hell he got blocked in between the time he left? Because he was able to leave a comment on one of the videos, and if he was blocked, he wouldn't be able to do that. So as far, I don't know, all kinds of weird things happen to me in regards to YouTube. So, but I tried to click the link, and it just highlights it. So it's something I'm gonna have to do on the YouTube side.
So for you, because you are the channel owner, the best thing for you to do is go into when you go on YouTube.
Yep.
You go into let me see. Let me go this. Let me do this step by step for you here. So you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. Where is it?
YouTube Studio, that much I know for sure, and then beyond that, I'd have to play around.
Your channel history. So there's a community tab.
Yes, there is. Okay, yep. I know what you mean.
I'm trying to find it. I forget what it's under. It might be under customization. Not customization.
Actually, I know where it is on my, well, at least on my phone, I know where it is.
There
It'll
it
look
is.
totally different on a computer.
So settings, general, channel, uploads, permissions, community. If you hit community tab under your general, you'll see managing moderators. You'll see standard moderators. You'll see a list of people, approved users. You'll see people, what do they call it on here? Blocked, hidden users, and that's where it'll be.
Is he hidden or blocked? Can you see it from your side or no?
It would be. It would be. Oh wow.
There's one person that I can think of off the top of my head that I did give a wrench to at one point in time that I was formerly friends with, not from our community now, but from a previous community. And that's the only person that I can even think of that would try and do that. But I don't even think she watches my channel anymore. So I don't know. But please apologize to Jason and to Mob Rat Hunter. It's not something I did, but I will correct it this weekend when I find my laptop somewhere.
Yeah. So go under your community tab and then your, it'll be there, and then you can look and see if someone's been.
Yeah, and it's odd to me that somebody would do that and not even mention it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Hidden on there. Hidden is the same thing as blocked.
Oh, it is.
So yeah.
Do you see anybody hidden there?
On your channel. I can't see your stuff.
Okay. See, I wasn't sure what exactly.
I just went and looked at mine. Like, to look at yours, I don't know. Even though I'm managing moderator, I don't know how to.
I'm not really sure what a managing moderator does. It's like a nice fancy title, but like, break it down for me. Dakota, stop. Go and eat your food.
I don't know.
Anyways, we'll sort it out. So, okay, so let's get back to where. Okay, so like, let's say somebody's just coming across the channel. Maybe just give like a brief synopsis about like you and whatever you're comfortable with sharing with people about your former career.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
sorry, did you hear me? Uh-oh. Stop.
There you go. Nope, you're back.
Uh-oh. Okay. I'm not sure what you heard. So maybe if somebody's joining us for the first time, maybe you'd be comfortable sharing, whatever you're comfortable sharing with about your former career, about like maybe a brief synopsis of what you did, what kind of experience you have, sort of thing.
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, I've done it before on other channels.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem doing with that at all. Yeah, that's
perfect. Fine. Okay. Give her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't. It doesn't bother me. I mean, quite frankly, if somebody is having some difficulty, it's on the job. I can relate to not just law enforcement, but fire rescue EMS as well. If someone's having some difficulty and trying to, I can.
Well, maybe you can share your experience with people, like just in case somebody's watching this channel for the first time, like maybe kind of talk through your career a little bit and what experience you've done and things like that.
I can do that. I mean, you want me to do that now?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Okay.
All right. No, that's cool.
The floor is yours.
No, I can do. Well, I'm gonna get a beer and then I'll do.
Okay.
I've been trying to figure out this managing mod thing for the last 15, 20 minutes.
I know. I'm sorry.
I can't figure it out.
Me neither. That's why I try not to do it when I'm live, because I got squirrel. But okay, grab a beer and then we'll
Give
get
me a
into
minute.
her.
Give me a minute. I'll tell you my life story. How's that?
All right, perfect. I'm
All
gonna
right.
try and get my dog calmed down. You go and eat, little man. Don't you give me a hard time right now. Yeah, so thank you, Carol, for letting me know. And please apologize. Jason already knows that he's somehow hidden or blocked. Do not know how that happened. But I did not know about Mob Rat Hunter. And it certainly was an accident, and I will correct it this weekend. Dakota, that's my dog. For those of you, excuse me, who have not seen my dog, he is a massive beast. Very annoying right now. Come here. Do you want a treat? He is, if I had to guess, I'm gonna say probably a good 150 to 175. King German Shepherd. He's black, he's tan, and he's got a strip of white down his chest. He's gorgeous. He's got the markings of a Rottie, but the look of a shepherd all the way through, and the temperament of a shepherd. And it's funny because I've owned female dogs prior to him, and owning a boy dog, they're dinks. They tend to be extremely overpossessive if you are the only owner. So like if he's a family dog and you have to share his love with everybody, that's probably a different story. But when it comes to me and him, he's a little bit psycho. Okay, so Mr. Smith's back, the mountains are blue, and we're ready to roll.
The mountains are blue.
Okay, hit it.
That's fairly accurate. Yeah. But real quick, if anybody in the chat, anybody watching this video later wants to comment to describe how there's only 2 people watching now.
Yeah, because everybody works days and it's late for them, right?
Wants to what's day 3? Yeah, tomorrow's Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to let both of us know how managing mods work, because I can't log into her channel to go into her community settings, but apparently I know there's a way to do that where I can go and see who's blocked and who's not and take care of it. I just don't know how. And while I'm all live, I really don't have the time to.
It's all good. I know it's got to be done on my laptop, and it will be fixed this weekend.
Yeah. So anyway, so you want the story of my life, huh? My professional life, at least.
Yes, sir. Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
All right. So I'll just start out. I was first sworn in at 19. I retired at age 49 as a police officer, sworn law enforcement officer, United States. It was in Delaware, and I retired in Maryland. I started out in a very small town police department. I retired from a large urban/suburban agency bordering Washington, D.C. I guess you could say I've been to hell and back during that time.
No doubt.
Just, and again, a lot of people have to understand there's differences between countries and things, and constitution and laws and blah, 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 and policies and procedures and things. For example, in Delaware, we were more free to, pursue, respond aggressively to calls, use of force, things like that, than when I came to Maryland. But as everybody knows, things changed across the country, the United States, and even Canada, in very recent years, which is unfortunate because you got people that attack cops publicly in Times Square just walk away, and people that dismember bodies in New York walk away with no bail. That just happened this week. 4 of them dismembered 2 bodies. Yeah, they dismembered 2 bodies and just threw them on the public streets and shit, and were released. Suffolk County, New York.
Oh my God.
And yeah, just released with no bail because, But
how does that happen? I don't understand that.
Nobody understands how that happens except the corrupt governor and state's attorney of New York knows how that happened, because
they must be connected, right? It's the only thing I can figure.
They're the ones that created that dilemma. But anyway, so what did I do? I public information officer, so I was the face of the media for different agencies, both law enforcement, fire rescue, detective, SWAT, technology, information technology officer, like just, I mean, instructor. I was both a state certified and federal certified instructor, general police instructor, field training officer, like things like that. Just like I did everything. I met all the personal and professional goals I set for myself. Uh,
Right.
Computer crimes and forensics, like all that's like I did like all kinds of stuff. And it's ever evolving. It still is to this day. It was ever evolving back then.
Mm-hmm.
I walked with our current president twice. I know you know. I know you know this story.
Yes.
Yeah,
Share it.
I walked with Biden twice back in the '90s on the
Mhm.
Delaware coast when he was a state, what was it, representative or senator? I forget what it was. I don't care
Mhm.
because he was an asshole then.
Yeah.
He was an asshole then.
Mm.
He did do a lot for law enforcement as far as federal funding.
Mhm.
But that's it. Um,
Hi, Carol. What would you say was your favorite out of everything, all of your experience that you did? What was your favorite job to work on?
I have three that
Okay.
are tied.
Okay.
First was SWAT because I was young and agile, and
Right.
I was really good at it. The second was being a public information officer, because I
Is
was,
that like speaking to the media? Is that right? Or do
yeah,
I have a different? Okay. Okay.
you're on live news shows, or they come out and pre-record you, or you're on radio shows or newspapers.
Okay.
I always liked that. I actually had some education and training that prior, which was cool. But I
Mm-hmm.
like doing that.
Yep.
Um, and being an instructor, like I was a certified state instructor, general police instructor in the state of Maryland. I was a
Mm-hmm.
certified field training officer in the state of Maryland. I was also a federal certified FLETC, which is Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, STAR instructor. So STAR stands for state and rural. And
Okay.
that was for critical incident management response. Um,
Okay.
and so that was those three kind of, those were my three favorite
So,
things.
so for the last part, like, because obviously I was never law enforcement. Can you explain a little bit more about what that one was, the last one?
Critical incident.
Yeah.
Sure. So you'd start out at the point of, and this is going with Secret Service and things like that, which I'll say again, I was a special deputy U.S. Marshal assigned to U.S. Secret Service Task Force at one point for a couple of years. And it was the word, I've said it before publicly, and I'll say it again. I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I was forced to be there. It was just, for me professionally, it was just not something I wanted to do, but I did it.
Right.
Um, but anyway, so back to this critical incident thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you do what's called site security surveys, pre-planning.
Okay.
So you go out to where, like, say, a dignitary is going to be, or you could imagine like a massive football, a Super Bowl, and
Right. Yep.
you go there ahead of time. You evaluate the whole thing, you get all the blueprints, you
Right.
go over everything, and you
Yep.
pre-plan. You bring in dogs and extra personnel and all these other things you can think of, and you just evaluate, pre-plan, write it out, talk about it, rewrite it again, do all
Yep.
this stuff, go over it. You have meetings after meetings, and this is going like weeks and months in advance of the actual
Really.
event. Unfortunately, the Secret Service only has a very short time, many times, to to do this type of thing to
Right.
pre-plan, but they have books like they're gonna be like, oh, we'll just do this that we did back then and on this date,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah. Things
that's
have
what that was.
changed.
Yeah, that's what that was about.
Yeah.
And a prime example is that of that is like tonight Biden was gave his State of the Union address, and they did all their pre-planning, things like that, their site security surveys and things well in advance. They had everything capital and all the routes and everything planned and things like that. Then all of a sudden, I mean, they knew this in advance, it was going to happen, but publicly it
Yep.
wasn't known. But all
Right.
these pro-Palestinian supporters
Mhm.
were going to block the motorcade route. Well, what these dummies don't understand is that there's more than just one route. So they can be like, well, we're gonna block down Constitution Avenue, and we're gonna make sure the president's gonna be really, really late or not even make it because we're gonna
Right.
block the motorcade. Well, dummies, there's all kinds of ways to get around you, and whatever. But that's the whole point and purpose of this training curriculum, and
Mhm.
the thinking and the pre-planning and all this stuff, to just say, like, okay, well, this piece of machinery fell off and this piece of machinery fell off, but we can still get it working, by
Yeah.
doing this and making this quick repair. Here's some duct tape. Here's some super glue. We can do these types of things to keep things moving. And that's what that was about.
Right. Yeah.
That particular thing.
Mhm.
So
So,
what else?
so that was for every major event, or just like maybe high profile security ones, or what?
I mean, we in that world, we were consider them both the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
They'd
Hmm.
they'd be under that regard, that concept, that training, that proactiveness. They would be considered the same thing
Okay.
for the most part.
Okay. So, and then you were training, is that what you said? Training officer? Is that like,
Instructor. I was a field training officer, meaning I trained new cops on the street.
okay.
After they
Mhm.
graduated the academy. I
Mhm.
would take them out on the street, and they'd have to go through weeks and months of training to be evaluated. They'd have daily reports done on them to see how they functioned
Right.
out on the
Right.
streets. I taught in a classroom.
Mhm.
I taught everything from gang stuff. I worked gangs in the DC metro area, MS-13. Everyone knows about them. Latin Kings, things like that.
Wow.
Did when I was a detective, that was part of it, the gang thing, but also did general investigate. I worked everything from homicides down to theft.
Wow. Did you work on any high profile homicides?
Yes, I guess you could say that.
Really?
Well, for the region, not like nationally, not like
No, but I mean,
for the area. Yeah. Oh, I did get quoted. There was a huge case, and this goes back to the PIO, the Public Information Officer thing, like the whole press media thing.
Mhm.
There was a case, dates back to the 70s,
Mhm.
where two sisters were abducted and ended up missing. Turns out they were murdered.
Whoa.
And it was this huge, and I knew the father. Like, my family knew the family, knew the father. He was a radio personality in DC, Washington,
Ooh.
DC.
Yeah.
Two daughters, they disappeared from a shopping mall one day.
Wow.
Anyway, So they figured out who did it and blah, blah, blah. And I
Mhm.
was working a temporary duty assignment
Mhm.
as a public information officer for this large agency. And I'd done it for small and medium sized agencies before, but I'd never like done it for this large agency. But I got assigned as they call it TDY, temporary duty assignment, to this
Okay.
large agency because I had the experience. And they had to position it, and they're like, "Oh, we need you to answer phones and shit like that during these
Right.
certain hours." And I worked a midnight shift. I'm like, "All right, well, whatever." So then next thing I know, I'm in the office and like nothing's going on. Like there's just like, what's the traffic like? Are there any accidents? Blah, blah, blah. The phone rings. I'm like, oh, you know, it's Officer so and so, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is so and so. I'm not gonna name it, from the LA Times. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry? From the LA Times.
Yeah.
Complete opposite coasts, right?
Mhm.
But of the states, but a completely major news organization, right? So and so
Yeah.
for the LA Times. We're following up with the sisters' murders, and we understand that you all have this suspect or that suspect or these two suspects, and you're down working a certain area getting evidence from fucking almost 50 years ago and blah blah blah.
Wow.
And I'm like, uh yeah. Anyway, so I got my shit together and I'm actually quoted in the LA once
Mhm.
in my professional career and during as a PIO, once have I ever been quoted in the LA Times giving a statement on a uh, major uh, missing person / homicide case.
And for
Um,
the record, I just have to ask, was it an actual accurate statement or did they put their media spin on it?
no, it was completely accurate. It was
Oh,
completely,
really?
yeah.
That's a shocker.
No, it was completely accurate. That they did
Wow.
a good job, and actually, what they quoted me very well. They spelled my fucking last name wrong, but that's not uncommon. I get my name spelled wrong all the time.
Tons of
They
bitches.
miss one letter. They miss one letter. But
Yeah.
yeah, so answering the phone like, "Hey, this is so and so from the LA Times. Can you tell us about this case?" I'm like, it's like I don't know. It's in the evening, and I'm like, I got to start my shift soon. I'm like, what? Who? LA Times?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Did you like during your time in homicide, did you ever work on like say any serial killer cases by any chance or any
I was not, as a detective, I was not assigned to a homicide division. I worked where the agency I worked with as a detective, we did everything from work on homicides to this was a medium-sized agency where I was a detective. So we
okay,
worked on everything from homicides down all the way down to like thefts, like serious theft, not
right,
just like,
right.
bullshit stuff.
Chocolate bar or something.
Right. My large agency had their own homicide unit type.
Right,
That's all they did. And I
right.
worked with them when I was a detective. I worked with them because it was in the
Hmm.
same county, the same jurisdiction. Um,
Right.
as far as serial killers, uh, I worked a couple cases that led towards, um, well, because there's one that's still open. I'm not going to
Okay, then
really,
don't talk about that one.
but this is going back years ago.
Okay.
But I'm not going to get into real specifics. But
No, yeah.
that's still open, but it is serial related. But my education and training, or part of my education and training, does revolve around that specific type of investigation. So behavioral sciences, um,
Right.
like when I started doing it, they called it. It was the FBI started the whole thing, and it was
Hmm.
the behavioral sciences unit, John Douglas and a bunch of other people. And then now it's called the behavioral analysis unit or something like that because they had to make it politically correct or some crap. I don't know.
Oh God. But it's
But
the same thing, right? Just a
well,
different
look,
title now.
well, look. When I went through, and I was already on the job. Like it took me like the first time I went through college, I was a teenager, and I was just like, "Fuck this! I'm not doing that." And then at
Right.
the same time, I became a cop, and
Right.
then uh, later on in life, I'm like, "No, I need to." So one of the classes I took
Mm-hmm.
in college, and I have a degree. It's actually hanging on my wall right now. It's a criminal justice technology,
Okay.
and that's my college degree.
Okay.
And I had never heard of that. But
Read it.
one of my classes was math for behavioral sciences. And I'm like, it was mandatory. And I'm like,
Really?
it wasn't an elective or anything. It was part of the major. I'm like, math for behavioral, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
What it means is every fucking type of math there is all combined into one fucking course during a semester or two. You everything, every fucking type of math you can imagine is math for behavioral sciences. And I was horrible at math.
Yeah, me too. And I
Horrible.
still am. What was the significance of that, do you think?
The significance was, and this is what I learned at the end, statistical and analytical. So
Okay.
you take numbers, you crunch number, you get every type of, okay, so you can look at everything from GPS coordinates and plot. You take a map and you'd be like, okay, you analyze all this stuff, right? You take
Right.
statistics like, oh, these crimes are committed here and da 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 da, and
Yeah.
this pattern fits that. Like you take all these different types of math and you
Right.
consolidate them into like basically one map. You're studying one case, like you're looking at, or I'm sorry, not studying, investigating one case
Uh-huh.
of like a potential serial killer or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
or a crime pattern at a minimum
Right.
map and all these different pins, and you're doing all this different type of math and like times of day and night and distances and all
Uh-huh.
this shit, ages of victims and where like locations where they live from the crime scenes where they were found and like all this stuff. And that's where all the math comes in, and it gives you a fucking headache. It gives you a real fucking headache. But that's what it all comes down. It's math for behavioral sciences. It's every type of math you can think of because they want you to know every type of math there is. Because when you're looking at this map with grids
Uh-huh.
and coordinates and things like that, you have to do the math to see it on the map. And then once you put the pin in the map, you have to coordinate that math that you've done to the
Uh-huh.
next location or the previous location of a crime, a similar
Right.
crime, to try to correlate them, to try to make them, to try to see if they're related, not make them, but try to see if they're
Right.
to try to create that pattern or that type of thing, or figure out a pattern. It's fucking like it fucks with your head and you're like, holy shit. I
Yeah.
got like a B. I got like a B in that. And I'm
Oh, I'd
like,
probably get a D or an F.
that's what I used to get. And like I get like a C or D in math because I fucking hated math.
Me too. It sucked.
But in
Now,
that,
as a logical person, would you say that, like if you were to look at a case, okay, would you say that the likelihood of figuring it out by the use of math or logic was more common?
oh, well, that's the thing. You have to combine a lot of things. So math, logic, your previous experience, the evidence that you have available, you have to combine
Right.
everything. And you can't rule out anything. And you also have to understand that some of the things you believe might be true are not. And you have to
Right.
expect that you're going to have to rule them out eventually until
Hmm.
you have substantial evidence that supports your beliefs, your theories, your everything.
Right.
You have to substantiate it. It can't just be like, well, I think this happened, and then bam, then it happened. No, you have to accept as an investigator. You have to accept like some of the things you're thinking might be completely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, the
It's all theory until you have the evidence to support it, right?
the whole thing's a fucking. I'm gonna tell you, it's a lot of work, and it's a headache. It's all a headache. It really is.
I bet.
It really is. Unless you got like just like this video, you know,
How
just
hard was it to solve crimes before like DNA became really popular?
DNA just enhanced it. It didn't
Like,
really.
would you say there was people wrongly convicted prior to the use of DNA? Like, or
Yes.
like, what do you? Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's what I would think, but I'm no cop, right?
There's people that have been wrongly convicted regardless of DNA. DNA was never involved in their cases or after the fact that they were convicted. They just brought up new evidence or new witnesses or things like that.
Right.
They were exonerated.
Right.
Um, DNA does clear some people.
Right.
However, remember, it goes back to the same thing. Just like if I have a video of a crime being committed, it doesn't mean
Mhm.
that what I'm seeing is actually accurate. Maybe there's no sound or something
That's
like
right.
that. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's just an audio recording and there's no video.
Right.
So there's a lot of perceptions that are incorporated into what I see or what I hear. And just
Right.
like DNA, just because somebody's DNA at the scene doesn't mean they did it. Also, just like somebody's DNA was not at the scene does not mean they did not commit that crime. So
Right.
you have to get, and that's part of the big headache. You have to gather everything possible that you can together, and it's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You have to figure out all the little pieces, put them together to get a picture, and then move on that picture. And then you have the
Right.
Constitution and laws to deal with, and like the state's attorneys, the deputy state's attorneys, things like that. They're called different things in different states, but basically
Yeah.
the state's attorney, deputy state's attorneys, to say, hey, I've got these pieces of the puzzle. This is what fits so far. This is what I got. I want to apply for this warrant, whether it's a search warrant, arrest warrant, a warrant to gather DNA, things like that. And
Mhm.
then they'll be like, okay, well, you can do it, but just because you get a warrant doesn't mean that you've solved the crime. So that's a big thing too.
Right. So let's go back to I remember, like, obviously I know that you worked on a smaller, like we were talking about, a
Mhm.
smaller fort, and I think you were the only patrol on duty for how many miles? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
I can. So you're talking basically like it's like small town, um, only like, oh shit, it's like maybe a 5 square mile area at the most. At
Okay.
best,
Okay.
at best, tiny.
Okay.
So tiny
Okay.
at best.
Hmm. And
Um,
that was at the beginning of your career, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so like what was that like? Because you am I correct? You were the only patrol car on during those times, and sometimes you like
At the
back of the
start
knee.
at the start of the job, the first few years, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Um, Only one. So back then we worked rotating shifts, so it'd be like day work, evenings they called it, and then midnight. So you'd work 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, or midnight to 8,
Right?
and we only had one cop per shift.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
Before I left there, we had more than one per shift, but I'm talking the first, God, probably almost, but not quite 10 years. Eh, maybe a little bit less than that. We had one cop per shift.
Holy shit! Now
Eh,
this is going back years, but I mean,
mhm.
like what was that like? Like what if you had like a really serious situation going on? Like I mean, that's kind of a scary feeling to
Right.
know that you're on your own. Like,
Right. So there's different aspects to it, but the good part is you got a lot of little small towns that are connected to each other. They border each other, right?
right. Yep.
Plus you have the state police, which are, you know, um, so where I started out, which was the state of Delaware,
Hmm.
you know, all these little small towns.
Mhm.
And people from Pennsylvania cannot relate to this because there were no townships. There still aren't in Delaware. So you had individual little towns. You didn't have townships where they combined resources. You had to go under what's called mutual aid agreements, and they had to
Okay.
be legal documents filed with the state and approved by the state. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I'm one cop in little small town. The neighboring town has one little small cop, maybe working, maybe a town or two away, or there's some distance between towns has one,
Mhm.
miles away or whatever might have one. Then
Mhm.
we all sign up and have a little mutual aid agreement. We're like, hey, I call out, I need help with this traffic stop, I need help on this call, I need help on whatever. Then
Yep.
if there's if one of those cops are working, they're available, they'll come. If not,
Mhm.
state police would, right?
Right.
And it
Right.
worked vice versa because state police were far and few between too. So if they needed help under the law, under the Delaware state law at the time, I don't know what it is now. If I was
Mhm.
called by Delaware State Police to assist, I was
Mhm.
automatically a Delaware State trooper, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
did go through their academy. I graduated from their academy, but that didn't make me a Delaware State trooper. So let's make that clear too.
Right.
But yeah, so there's different and the thing is like if there's one cop working in one town, one working in another, whether they're adjoining or a few miles away,
Mhm.
like I could have a call and need help, but that cop in an adjoining town might be busy with their own call. So then they have to skip a town or two away to
Right.
call for help or whatever. And then, it could be a while. I might be on my own for a while. That happened. S- uh,
Now, when okay, put it this way, was that common knowledge to people? Like, did they know you were on your own?
Well, yeah. I mean, the year round,
So
yeah.
so wouldn't that increase the crime rate or different
Mm-mm.
time?
No. Um, the populations, it was on the coast. It was a transient slash tourist area.
Mm,
So during the winter months, the population was a lot less. During the summer
right,
months, spring through, I guess I'll say late spring through early fall, we were in
right.
the tens of thousands of population. But during the winter months, we only had a short few thousand as far as the
Right.
population goes. So, but the few
Mhm.
short population that lived there year round, they knew everything. They knew everything was. It
Right.
was the tourists or the Tourons, as we used to call them, that had no fucking idea. They didn't care
Mm,
anyway.
right.
That would just destroy us, and that's how we ended up getting additional help, like more funding and more cops over many many years. But still, when I left the small department, they had seven. We had five when I started. I think
Wow.
when I left, 13 years, 13 years I was there. 14, 13, 13, 14, whatever.
Mhm.
I started, we had five. When I left, it was either seven or eight, I forget, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But
See, like
that's it.
if I was a
Year round.
criminal,
So,
I'd be like taking full advantage of that.
well, see, during the summer months, those departments in two states, Maryland and Delaware, they would hire additional officers, summer officers. They call them
Ah,
seasonal officers to supplement the full time force. The
right.
small towns could only hire like one or two or maybe five at the most. But like say
Wow.
Ocean City, Maryland would hire like 100. But
Mhm.
that might be coming to pass now soon as well because things just changed. But yeah, so it used to be just five of us, maybe one seasonal officer during the summer, so six. And then when I left, it was maybe eight full-time officers and
Gee,
one, and that was it. That was it.
that's freaking small.
Yeah, it's tiny. Yeah, it was tiny. It's really tiny, but
Wow.
it was a great place to start. I got the best.
Right.
I got the best training I could get at the time, and
Yeah.
well, to this day, well, I don't know what it's like now, but at the time, it was one of the like one of the premier uh, training academies in the country and the nation.
Mhm.
And, um,
Mhm.
I made it through it. I don't know how, but I did. And moved on from there. I went through 3 police academies altogether throughout my career,
Really?
which sucked. That fucking sucked, by the way. So anyone that's thinking about law enforcement career in the States, don't. Fucking sucked.
Yeah,
Fucking
that
sucked.
goes without saying.
Yeah. So
That's crazy. Would you say that your style of policing would vary? Like obviously you would have to use different tactics, different methods, different things in a smaller town as opposed to a bigger town, right? Like I mean,
yeah, I'll give you a prime example.
okay.
Hey, Paul, you have a good one. I'll give you a prime example. So back in a small town on the coast,
Good night, Paul. Mm-hmm.
a, a, like we get a call for a burglary alarm going off in the house. All
Right.
right, burglary alarm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'd go there, lights and siren.
Right.
Don't care if it was 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 a.m. We'd go there, lights and sirens, because that's how we rolled, and that's
Right.
how we were allowed to roll, and that's how they wanted us to roll.
Right.
The agency I worked for, and Mob Rats
Hey,
Exposed. Greetings,
hey,
man.
Ryan.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
The agency I retired from, you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
turn unless you were making a traffic stop, you couldn't turn your lights and siren on unless they told you to, unless dispatch told you to, or your supervisor told you to through dispatch. You couldn't even turn your lights and siren on.
Is that normal practice?
Well, it was where I worked.
That seems like insanity to me.
It is. It was absolutely ridiculous. They had different
One,
levels where I started out, where I ended were completely different ideology, thought processes, policies, procedures, everything.
right. Would you
Didn't
also say that that was a time, like, was it a big gap of time or just,
make,
no?
no, when I worked back in the day, when I worked in another state in the small towns, the
Uh-huh.
same place I ended up retiring from had pretty much the same policies they had when I worked for them and retired from them. They only changed one thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, they used to call them codes, code 1, 2, and 3. And code 1 meaning you just respond normal, like no
Uh-huh.
lights and sirens. Code
Yeah.
2 is you only turn on your lights and sirens to expedite your response, to get through like stop signs, red lights, things like that, to get there
Right.
quick.
Yeah.
Code 3 was full lights and sirens. You just
Drive right
fuck
through the
it.
house.
You just fucking, yeah, you gun it to get there, full
Yep.
lights and sirens. But where I was at the exact same time, it was, well, I make that decision. Nobody tells me. Like we have our own
Right.
policies and procedures and state laws. I can, if I want to get there quick, I'll turn on my lights and sirens. If I don't, I won't use them.
Right.
But where I retired from, they eventually changed it. So when I retired, they changed it from code 1 and code 3. They got rid of code 2, the in between where you turn your lights and sirens on when you thought it was necessary. They got rid of
Right.
that. And they
Oh,
said you either can turn them on or you can't, but you will tell you when. So they called it routine, which is no lights and sirens, or
yeah.
priority. So it was either nothing or complete balls to the wall. That's what it was. And
That I can relate to because
that's
I'm
how I
kind of
left.
like that.
Yeah,
What
that's
about
how I
those
left.
ones that turn the sirens on just to go through the friggin' red light and then turn them off? That pisses me off.
Well, we were able to do that legally if we were trying to expedite going to a call, and the
Mhm.
larger agency, well, they stopped it after I started working. Well, we still had it when I started working there, then they stopped it. But I mean, you think about it, if and it'll mostly be for like domestic disputes. Uh,
Right.
an officer like calling out with something like he's in a, like he or she is in a, stop and send me someone code 2, meaning send me somebody here quick, but don't
Yeah.
like let them stop at red lights and stop signs
Yeah.
forever, or don't let them blow ass balls to the wall here being
Yeah.
crazy. Just get them here quick. That's the
Yeah.
code too. Like, so sometimes you see cops going through red lights and stop sign. They're just driving up and they turn them on and off real quick
Mhm.
going through the intersection. It's for a reason 99% of the time. Yes, there are assholes that are out there, male or female cops, that do that shit just to fucking like, oh, I got licensed sirens. I can fucking do what I want. That's not so much nowadays, but it
Mhm.
used to be. Yes, I'll admit that.
Mhm. Scott has a question. It says, do you think the statute of limitations should be increased for CSA survivors? Is that dependent on states or universal?
Statutes or state laws?
Um,
Statutes are limited to states.
okay, Scott, can you clarify exactly? Yeah, because I seen that New York changed it, and
Mhm.
well, and then something in California, but I think that's more for the civil aspect of it.
Yeah.
In Canada, we don't have a statute, period. There is no limitation because it's not uncommon for people to suppress those memories, especially if you're a child when it happened, right? So that's one thing I am proud of Canada for, is that there is no statute of limitations on that. But there's a lot I'm not proud of them for it. So they did one thing right. Sorry, Emery, you're not feeling well. I hope you're feeling better, buddy. Scott, can you clarify on what you mean exactly? By the statute of limitations, do you mean per state or like just universal? He's from New Zealand. Scott's from New Zealand, so maybe he's like, because, well, the one thing that I don't understand, like, I know our justice system is very different from Canada to the US. We've talked about this many times, but you have a lot more alphabet agencies than what we have. Like,
Mhm.
we don't have nearly as many layers as you do. Okay, so it
Mhm.
says, yeah, I think it should be one, what does that
Rule
say? Rule for
One rule for
all
all states.
states.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing in
I
the
find that
state.
very confusing. Like even that one, what is that? The Roe versus Wade, like it's everything is state dependent. Like it makes things confusing. Do you know what I
Roe,
mean?
Roe versus Wade is a civil opinion, but that can cause states to create their own statutes that could make certain things criminal under
Right.
the
That's what I understood
federal
it to be
court
as a
system.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
remember,
normal? Like,
so
I
remember,
guess. Yeah.
in the states we have the Constitution, then we have
Yes.
law, then we have state law, then we have local law, and local law can
Wow.
consist of local code, local ordinance, but everything starting at the very bottom cannot supersede the higher law. Or
Well, and you know what? That's the way that it was supposed to be here,
Mhm.
and it was ignored. And now, a couple of years later, that things are going through the courts.
Mhm.
The Supreme Court has deemed what we said all along was that they did violate our rights and it wasn't legal. And, but I mean, it's going to be years in litigation, right? So
Of
have we
course,
won? No. The small win, yeah. But I mean, let's be real. Someone's going to overturn it. He's going to pay off the right judge, in my opinion.
it's always an
So.
uphill battle with that type of stuff.
Right. But the thing I find confusing, like for example, in Canada, is that we have provinces, not states. And again, the same thing is that every individual place has its own set of curriculum.
Well,
Looking.
I guess kind of think of the provinces as states in relation to the US. I mean, kind of, so if there's differences by province, then kind of it's the same thing by states here. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Now, like, okay, this is the part that I never understood as a Canadian. Like, what? Okay, like, I understand the local, the state, okay, but
Mhm.
then what? Like, we don't? Okay, in Canada we don't have like the Secret Service, we don't have the FBI, we don't have like all of these different entities. Is
Well,
there like what's the reason?
you've got RCMP, so that's like
Well,
FBI,
yeah,
DEA, and
yeah.
CIA, and like
Well, they like horses, put it that way.
Mm,
They like to trample
yeah.
things. But is that the same? Is that what you would be saying comparison? Is that it's the same as you know all of those other entities in the US? Is that a fair comparison?
So as far as our federal agencies, they call them the alphabet agencies here, like
Right,
FBI, DEA, Secret Service, which is USSS, U.S. Marshals, things like that. They call them the alphabet agencies because they're just usually go by their letters.
right,
Um, they don't have general local law enforcement authority, so they have federal law enforcement authority across the country, but say they can't pull you over for speeding.
okay,
They can't lock you up for um, I don't know, some like shoplifting.
right,
Only state, county, local law enforcement can do that in the United States. Feds can't.
right.
So here's a quick tip. Anybody, if you're driving down the interstate and some Fed pulls you over and actually identifies themselves like the Department of Homeland Security, you were speeding, da da da. They don't have the authority to do that. That's illegal. That's an illegal stop. It's an unconstitutional. Well, it's an illegal stop. They can't do that.
Right.
So the only time they can make those, they have to have like arrest warrant, search warrant, things like that to take to perform activities, law enforcement activities within like anywhere in the country, whether it's a
I didn't
federal.
even know Homeland Security had the authority to even do that.
Yeah, they have their own law
Other than
enforcement.
at the border, of course, but
No, they have their own. They've got a really large and strong law enforcement arm besides the Border Patrol. I'm sorry, whatever they want to be called now,
yeah.
or whatever they're. But and they're great. They're awesome, but their hands are tied. But yeah, they've got Homeland Security investigations and all kinds of things. They've got a very strong arm of law enforcement within that within Homeland Security. But yeah, basically, a federal agent or officer cannot just pull you over for speeding on a state or public roadway, or arrest you for shoplifting or things. They don't have that authority or jurisdiction. They have federal,
Right.
which means it's nationwide, but it has to fall under certain federal laws, and they have to have some type of there have to be a task force which incorporates the state and local laws, but they have to have some type of arrest warrant or search warrant, things like that, under federal law to enforce in the different states. But if they're part of a task force, and mainly they have task force, I was part of one, obviously,
Mhm.
they get the ability to do that.
Could you
Um,
give an example of when, like, would it be something to do with the border or something beyond that scope? Like, could you give an example
oh
of
yeah,
when TSA
absolutely.
would be involved?
No, the border is a prime example, especially these days. But like the one I worked on was fraud. It was um, everything for
Like passport fraud or
anything. It was anything. So credit cards, like anything, bank fraud, like anything. Um,
TSA?
TSA is a civilian. Like, TSA is not a law enforcement agency in the States. TSA, transportation security, right? Is that what you're talking about? The
Uh-huh.
TSA officers that you see at the airports and shit like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not cops. They have absolutely zero law enforcement authority whatsoever. That's why they actually have um, like local and state law enforcement at airports, because TSA can only report things. They can't arrest people. They have absolutely zero law enforcement authority whatsoever.
Right.
which is ridiculous. But
They
yeah,
seem
so
to act like it at the
they
border.
wear they wear they wear uniforms and badges, and they're federal employees and things like that. And you think that they would,
Uh-huh.
but they don't. So
Right.
Scott
But
Kirk,
he was a
Scott,
30-year
30 years
veteran.
altogether. Yeah, 30 years, 30 years solid. Um, but yeah, TSA has absolutely zero law enforcement. They are not a police department. They can't arrest anybody. They can hold you until
Right.
law enforcement comes, but
Right.
basically they're airport security, not airport
Right.
police.
Right. But they
So,
sure act like they're big deal.
well, look how many of them been locked up for stealing passengers' fucking money and electronics and luggage and shit like that too
Really?
over the years. Yeah, Google that shit.
Well, we're very censored here in Canada. We're snowflakes, so we can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
So you'd probably get a better picture
Look, I'm
of
not
what.
saying TSA, depending on where they are,
Uh-huh.
they've done a pretty good job like intercepting like people dumbasses trying to
Uh-huh.
carry guns through, like loaded guns
Yeah,
on
that
the
I've seen.
airplane.
Or I've
They've done
actually
pretty,
even seen them like track people down that have overstayed their visa.
yeah, they've done, yeah. So immigration enforcement, like they will detain people for that, but they don't have the authority to arrest anybody. They can detain them, but they can't
Right.
arrest them. But yeah, they've stopped a lot of guns from a lot of guns from getting on airplanes because dummies in this country just like, oh, I have a concealed carry permit, or oh, I forgot, or whatever. Fuck you, you're a moron. Why do you go to the airport with a fucking gun? Check your bag,
Right.
check your fucking suitcase. Are you fucking that stupid? Like, don't fucking do it. Were
Well, a
you
lot of
around
people
during?
don't do research simply before traveling to find out, like, I mean, it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, but the overwhelming majority of these fucking oxygen thieves that get picked up for it at the airport were alive during 9/11. They know exactly what happened. They're like, well, I'm going to the airport with a gun and going through security.
Yeah,
Are you
that
fucking
is stupid.
stupid? Fucking stupid. Oh, I forgot. Or I had a, seriously, you forgot. Oh, I forgot I had this loaded handgun
So
on
what would
my,
happen?
on my
Just out of
back.
curiosity, what would that look like? Would they would get arrested, I guess? Yeah.
So TSA stops them. They detain them.
Right?
There's always airport police, or usually if they're like, I don't know, a major metropolitan area, they have their police department there. If there's no airport police, or they call in the local police department or sheriff's department, they come in and then they arrest them. But TSA does
Right.
have the authority to detain people, but they can't arrest people and charge people for crimes, right? But they can detain them. They can tackle them and whatever and hold them there and be like, no, because that's the whole point of them in the first place, right? Like not to let like guns and bombs go on airplanes. Um,
Right. Well, that's a good job. Now the difference between detaining and obviously arresting, are you allowed to leave while you're being detained or no?
I want to say, Carol Mahale, you have a good night. Thank you for joining. I understand. I'm actually getting ready to get off here soon myself and go to bed.
Yes, I apologize it's so late, you guys, but I work
So,
afternoons, so
so
we can
the
continue this at a different time.
so the difference detaining is just holding a person in place. You are not. You are in. You're detained, but you're not under arrest. So no, you are not free to leave. So under the Constitution and different amendments and things like that, you
Hmm.
can be detained um, and not charged officially with a crime, but you are not free to leave.
Right.
If you are given what's called a lawful order to say, hey, yeah, you're not going anywhere. You are detained, meaning you've just lost your freedom to just walk away. Yeah, you
Right.
can't just walk away and be like, F you, I'm detained. Fuck you. I'm not detained. I'm out of here. No, that's not how it works.
What
Uh,
about those First Amendment auditors that you see that say, well, if I'm detained, I'm not arrested, so I am free to leave? Like,
in a lot of those cases, they're correct, because
really?
they have to actually be told they're being detained. But
Ah,
a lot of them will say, "Well, if I'm not detained, then I'm leaving." Well, unless a law
mhm,
enforcement officer says, "No, you are detained and you're not free to leave," then they can't. And that
right.
falls under the Constitution and law and stuff. But if the officer or the law enforcement officer does not have enough reasonable, articulable suspicion or probable cause to detain them, then they
Mhm,
can't. And if
mhm,
they call it accosting, if a law enforcement officer comes up and accosts them and says, "Hey, blah blah blah, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Blah blah blah," they can say, they can say like, "I'm not answering your questions," or "Go pack sand," or "Go fuck yourself." What do they want? And they can walk away, and they can actually say, just like you've seen, I'm sure in a lot of videos, "If I'm not
yep,
detained, I'm leaving." Well, okay,
right.
then you go.
Yeah.
Uh, but unfortunately, a lot of these dummies that don't understand the Constitution and the legal right,
Yeah.
they'll stay there and they'll actually create a problem for themselves mostly.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, then they have committed a crime. Then they are detained. Next thing you know, they're under arrest. They should look. Most of these idiots that do this auditor shit have no actual um, education, training, or experience in the Constitution and law and what they are and are not able to do. They just go out and they
Right.
watch other people doing it on videos and the YouTube or wherever, and
Yeah.
they go out and like, well, I'm going to do this, and I want to see myself on video doing this, and they get encouraged by someone else, and then they fuck up. Next thing you know, they're locked up, they're in jail, and they're before a court, and they're just dumb. That's the
Yeah. They
majority.
seem to end up getting themselves in a lot more trouble just trying to prove a point.
Right, but that's the whole thing. What point are they trying to prove? Because
I'm not
they
sure.
a lot of
Uh-huh.
times they have no understanding of the Constitution and law. They think
Uh-huh.
that the First Amendment gives everybody in the United States the right to just go and whatever. They claim free press. They claim rights of the press.
Right.
Guess what? Unless you are formally trained, employed, and credentialed as news media, as the press, you're not covered under the First Amendment in the United States. However, you can go and film from a public area onto private property, whether it's through a
Uh-huh.
window or out in general, things like that. But just because you claim, well, I have a First Amendment right because free press, and no, 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 no. That's not how it works. You can't trespass on a private property. You can't
Right.
go in and go into a government building with a camera, whether it's a police station,
Right.
fucking post office, mayor's office, whatever, and be like, "Oh, I've got my camera," and then it says no, no videography, no photography, no whatever allowed. You can't just go in and do that and claim like, well, I'm the press. I'm doing a story for nobody, myself. Now,
Yeah.
you need to have actual training,
Credentials.
education, training, and credentials to show under the
Uh-huh.
First Amendment that you are a member of the press, because that's what it's what it's great, a member of the press. Just because you're a private citizen does not make you the press, does not give you the right to go into private property or government property to
Right.
film video and audio from
Yeah, you
public.
see that a lot. You see
Yeah,
that a lot.
from public access. You can do that, like a
Mhm.
sidewalk, a street, things like that, onto
Mhm.
private property, but you cannot go beyond that that perimeter of the intrude upon that perimeter of private or government property to do that sort of thing. It's not how it works, and you cannot.
Yeah, and you do see that a lot, them going into public
And you,
buildings and
right,
then getting offended when they ask for their ID, and it's like, "Are you
right,
an idiot?"
right, and you cannot claim protections of, I have the First Amendment free press. That's not how it works, dummies. Like,
Right.
get
Yeah.
get get that fucking in your heads. Understand that's how it works. That's the reality of it. look, I'm all for it. If you're in, again, I see people in the comment, we're talking about the United States only. We're not talking about other countries and
Right. Yeah.
things like that. We're only talking about the United States.
Right. Yeah.
If people need to understand, and being a very pro-gun guy, these
Mhm.
morons, absolute morons that go out and wander down the street alone or in groups with fucking rifles and shit and guns in their
Right.
fucking walking down Main Street, USA, going like, well, we have a right to, under the Second Amendment, to carry the fucking morons.
Did you see
No,
that one video of the guy fishing with an AK-47? And I'm like, oh my God. And of course they did come up and question him. And it's
well,
like,
that was that the Florida one?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, Florida has different laws, and it has nothing to do. So that's kind of goes back to the same point of the topic.
Uh-huh.
In Florida, you can open carry as long as you're
Right.
engaged in an activity like that. Some sportsmen like hunting, fishing, things like that.
Okay.
But other than that, you can't. That's state law.
Right.
You have to have a permit to conceal carry, but to open carry, you have to be engaged in some type of outdoor recreational activity, target shooting, fishing, hunting, things like that. You can't just walk down the fucking street with a fucking
Yeah.
AR-15
Yeah.
hanging over your fucking shoulder, or a, like a Glock on your side. And that's what these stupid fucking oxygen thief morons that proclaim, oh, Second Amendment right, and I can just walk down Main Street, USA with me and my buddies and fucking rifle. You know how many people are going to call 911? You know how many
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
state laws? Just by doing that, you're creating stress, you're
Yeah.
creating alarm, you're creating a
Yeah.
fray by
Yeah.
law, you're being disorderly, and you are susceptible to arrest, or at least
Really.
citation by arrest,
Yeah.
or arrest by citation. Sorry, reverse that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
look, you can't just go around doing it. So, well, I got a constitution. No, you don't. You have a right to own it. As long as you're legally allowed to own that firearm, you can. It doesn't mean you can fucking carry it around the fucking streets scaring the shit out of people. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Just like the assholes that go around claiming that they have right to film audio and video because of the First Amendment. Wrong. So the people are so, but that's the United States for you now, because that's how stupid. Maybe it's what do they call it? Climate change, a lack of oxygen now. Oxygen thieves are having trouble breathing, so they're going out and be like, I can do this, that, and the other thing. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about, but whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It is. But the cops nowadays, and that's kind of, I think, your main point. Like, police nowadays are just like, they don't have fucking time for it because they're so understaffed and overwhelmed and everything else. They're like, they're like, you know what? There's dudes, I guarantee there's guys and dudes wearing a uniform and badge are just fucking hiding. Like, they're finding a safe place to park out of public view. The only time they're doing anything is when they're called by dispatch to do something, because they're smart. Because that's what I did my last couple of years. They're smart. They're like, I'm not going out and proactively doing shit because, number one, I'm being led by a politician with a badge. Right. Someone out for they're overpaid fucking politicians with a badge. And it's like, fuck that shit. They're not going to cover my ass, whether I'm constitutionally and legally right or not. They're going to throw me under their bus for their own benefit, or just to make themselves, look good in front of the fucking TV camera. That's why they can't hire anybody. That's why even my own former department now is often like, well, we'll give you $20,000 if you fucking come here. And then they lower the standards. They lower the requirement standards, and then say, "Well, we'll give you $20,000 too if you come here." Well, Do you
Wow.
want that type of person fucking protecting you on the streets? Your son or daughter, your family member, your wife, your husband, your mother, father,
Yeah.
your grandfather.
Yeah.
I don't want those fucking kind of people protecting me. No,
Yeah.
no. I'll
Yeah.
protect myself. I don't need that bullshit. Nope.
Yeah, I've heard the same with the police, even the military here. They're even allowing people to join the military that aren't even Canadian citizens. That's how desperate we are for people. So
It ain't worth it.
that's a
Like
comforting thought.
you couldn't pay when I left, I was making six figures, right?
Mhm.
Which is pretty good, right?
Mhm.
You couldn't pay me $1 million fucking dollars a year to go back to that job in this country, in the United States, to this day, because that's how fucked up this country has become. It's become so politically corrupt,
Yep. Yep.
ideologically corrupt.
Yep.
You couldn't pay me $1 million a year to go back to being a cop in the United States. And I know quite a few current and former cops, retired cops, that say the
Uh-huh.
same thing. I know there's cops. I know lots of cops right now that are still on the job, that are veteran cops,
Mhm.
that are like, I need to get the fuck out of here. I got 4 kids in, high school and getting ready in college. I need to fucking figure this shit out because I'm making good money, but it's not worth it because I could die any day. I could be murdered any day, and my department's not going to support me. Um,
Right?
or even if I just have to use force against somebody to protect myself or some innocent civilian,
Yeah.
then they'll turn on me.
Well, yeah, you're scrutinized. I know we've talked about this in the past. And I full-heartedly agree with you. You took your retirement at 30 years, and you always said that you retired at the right time. Can you kind of explain that to the people that
Yeah,
haven't heard the story?
so I retired in October 1st, 2019,
Mhm.
after 30 years. The
Mhm.
whole anti-police movement in the United States started around 2014.
Right.
Now, I was just eligible to retire at the time. I did
Mhm.
not pick it because of any anti-police sentiment or anything that was going
Right.
on, shit like that.
Yeah.
I just got lucky, like, as far as timing. Like, unfortunately, a lot of my good friends are still there.
Right.
Male and female officers are still there. Others uh, got out as soon as they could. Some like just before me, some just after me. Some are
Mhm.
working on it now, but there's other ones that are still stuck there, and they've been there for like 20, 25 years, maybe even 30 years, and they're like, I got so many, like, financially, I don't know how I can just walk away, but I just got lucky. That's what it comes down to. It was just time. I don't know, just timing. I got
You
lucky.
just seen the way that things were going and knew you didn't want to be a part of it, and knew you had your hours to
No,
max out at retirement,
no,
right?
no. It had nothing to do with that.
Oh,
No, it had nothing to do with what the way things were going. It was, I'm tired. I've done 30 years. I'm
yep.
tired.
Mhm.
Look, I'm going through like medical shit now because of the 30 years I did from law enforcement, plus an additional concurrent 15 years fire rescue EMS, right? The
Right.
stress, it broke my body.
I
And
understand.
I just had enough. I'm like, when am I first eligible? My first eligible date was October 1st, 2019. I took it.
Mhm.
I was like, fucking sign me up. I'm out of here. I don't want nothing else to do with it. I didn't care. It had nothing to do with what was going on.
Right.
Didn't care. And the reason why I can say that, because it got 10 times worse after I retired, like the
Right.
anti-police sentiment in America.
Right.
It got 10 times
So,
worse
okay.
after I
So
left.
so having seen what you've seen, knowing what you know now,
Mhm.
and now being on the other side of it, and obviously knowing the residual effects of doing a job of that nature,
Mhm.
what would you suggest that they could do, or maybe even programs or some sort of support? Because I find, like, even with the military, once you're done, you're done. Like, there's not really a lot of support to deal with the aftermath. Is there anything that you come up with, or anything that comes to the top of your head that you think would be beneficial to those who have worked in a civil service capacity in terms of supports?
There's resources out there. Like I said, from my small department, they didn't offer that stuff, whether you're on the job or you retired. Um, where I retired from, they offered that to you. It was available, readily available, 24/7, 365, whether you're on the job. And even to this day, if I wanted to reach out, to the agency and say like, hey, I don't, oh no, yeah, I got trouble or whatever,
Yep.
they would provide a resource. Um, so if you have the only advice I have is like if you work for a place that still has those resources after you retire, go ahead, feel free to reach out. Just be very knowledgeable and cautious. Like, are they gonna, what are they gonna charge you for? Is it gonna be covered under your, medical insurance? Is it gonna be, or are they just gonna pick up the full bill? Like, what are they gonna do? Like, do you have a contract, like a union contract or collective bargaining agreement, like that discusses how it's gonna work out? Like, you have to know how it's going to be handled. But either way, regardless, you should reach out. They have what's called peer support. It's a very
Right.
predominant um, program in law enforcement and fire rescue EMS agencies around the country. Peer support is volunteers of peers that are on the job as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they have specialized training and resources they can refer you to if you
Mhm.
need that type of assistance. So I would look to there first, honestly, peer support, and
Right.
uh, and if that happens to be a program that's around for an agency you work with currently or
Mhm.
after, again, it's not just
Mhm.
law enforcement, fire rescue, EMS as well. Then do that, and then go from there.
What type of okay, so one of the other channels that I watch, this is a very common theme from various departments, etc. What kind of advice would you give to either current law enforcement officers and or their management who are part of, like, the old boys club that don't believe that this is an issue, suck it up, blah blah blah? Is there any sort of advice that you could give to either the cops that are feeling like they're not being heard, and or the management to kind of open up their pea brain fucking minds to understand that there are residual effects from doing this type of work? Is there any kind of advice that you would give to those people that just kind of feel like they're lost and they're not getting the support that they need from either their bosses or subordinates, I guess?
It's funny you should say that because we used to call them the good old boys,
Right.
and that's unfortunately the era that I became like that I got into the profession was under that what they call now the good old boys system
Right.
or regime.
Yep.
That's when
Yep.
I started. Now they call them, it's like I said, the politicians with badges and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
But it's basically the same concept. It's the same
Mhm.
concept. It's
Right.
it's you know you have to have a good, effective leader, no matter what, and that leader cannot be a politician.
Right.
And by that I mean they can be elected to office, but they cannot act. Um, they cannot. They cannot act trying to get votes. So the best
Right.
example I can give to this day is Sheriff Grady Judd down in Polk County, Florida. Um, he basically says like he'll say it to the news media. He'll say it to the public. He'll say it to your face. Like, if you want to come to Polk County, Florida and commit a crime and you get hurt or killed doing it, then you fucking deserve it.
What?
I encourage every one of our citizens here in Polk County, you bring a gun, expect to be shot. If you shoot at one of my deputies, expect to be shot and probably killed. Like things like that. Like that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Okay.
He's elected. So
Right.
technically he is a politician with a badge,
Right.
but he has a vast law enforcement experience. He's just retaining his office because he's just number one, the location, but also he's just like a bunch of teenagers, like they fled in a stolen car or something
Yeah.
from Polk County Sheriff, and they ended up wrecking. They ended up crashing into like a pond or the bay or fucking whatever it is down there, and they died. Right.
Wow.
And like there was all this like, well, they shouldn't have been chasing them and blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, maybe they shouldn't have fucking stolen a car. Maybe they shouldn't have, fled from the police, and maybe they shouldn't have crashed into the fucking pond. And my deputies, here's the actual video footage of my deputies trying to save them, but these
Right.
fucking dumbasses did this shit, so it's on them. It's not the sheriff's department's fault. It's their fucking fault. So
Right.
fuck off. And that just
Right.
shut down everything, right? That's what
Right.
needs to happen across the United States, period. Is for all these chiefs of police, all these sheriffs, all these even cops now, like the veteran cops, you'd be like,
yeah,
you know what? No, Constitution law, fuck you. All this BLM and defund the police and all this fucking bullshit that's going on. No, fuck off. Go fuck off. Look how many people in BLM have been charged with crimes. Look how many defund the police organizations have been caught using the money they've obtained criminally for personal use and things like that.
Yeah, misappropriation.
Fuck that. Yeah, exactly. Misappropriation. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
And from the same, old boys club, those are the ones that don't think that people need help, and like again, speaking to this other channel, like many stories of people trying to get that help and trying to take time they need, and then ultimately leading to suicide because they were unheard or they were told no, or and I find that completely unacceptable in today's world. Like, what advice would you give to those old school bosses that still have that old school mentality?
So
is there any words of wisdom?
Most of these resources and programs are created by veteran officers that are on the job, like peer support created by veteran officers, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, things like that. They're created by them, and they continually fight the system, saying, "Hey, we need to start this type of program in our agency, and we do it on our own time. We'll do it on our own time." And then they'll come back and say, this is great, but we need some funding, a little bit of funding. It's a few $100s every year so we can send some of our personnel through training.
Right.
Learn how to do this properly, and then get us some resources that we can refer. They don't have to be run by, the city, town, county, state, whatever they work for. Just get us some resources. We're gonna go out and talk to some psychiatrists, psychologists that are willing to work with us, and that are on board.
Right.
But at least fund some of this training for us, so we can do the right thing, so we know what we're doing, and
well, what if they have those programs in place, to look good for appearance sake, but say it gets to a point where the situation is a little bit more dire and someone is like, okay, I need to take some time off because like I'm really affected by things, and the bosses are saying absolutely fucking not even an option. What would you say to those types of
I've never seen that.
Really? See,
I've
this
never
is why
seen
I
that.
wanted to talk to those guys I was telling you about prior, because this is a common theme, and this is in the California area, and I'm wondering if there's other areas, perhaps, that are having the same issue, because I think we need to shed light on those areas, and call those people out for the dickheads that they are, for preventing people from getting the necessary help that they need, and some of them have ultimately
Well,
lost their lives because of it.
maybe I should rephrase that. I I didn't see it in the agencies, the
That
larger
you
agencies
worked
I
in.
worked for that provided that, that had like the peer support teams that had their
Right,
own psychologists and psychiatrists and things like
right,
that. The
right,
way back in the day in the small town, um,
right,
they would send you through a not a contracted, but they had a well, I guess it was contracted, but they had a psychiatrist or psychologist that was that they would send officers to,
right.
not just for pre-employment screening, but like if something, if they thought something was going on, they could. But like you'd have to travel like halfway across the state. It wasn't like something that was readily available, that type of thing, and they wouldn't like say they wouldn't bring it up and say, well, we think you should go here, or we're going to provide these resources. You have to figure it all out yourself as an employee.
Yeah,
As a
that's a common theme I see even in Canada, and I think that's a major flaw in that system, because you're the one who's seeking help, and you're going to these so-called professionals, and they're more than happy to get out the prescription pad and give you all these fucking pills that do nothing, but they're not really wanting to address like the source of the issue, and I think that's a missed opportunity, you
Miss
know.
my channel, yeah, Polk County, Florida Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office. I forget if they're considered officer department. Polk County
Mhm.
Sheriff Grady Judd. He is one badass sheriff, and yes, as I said to Kim before, technically he is a politician with a badge because you have to do get voted into that position, but he
Right.
does not act like a politician with a badge. He acts like a true leader, law enforcement leader, and he doesn't take shit. And that's what needs to happen across this country. So,
And this country, because it's very embarrassing how many politicians with badges we have here. Shocking to me, because I never paid attention before, but it's embarrassing.
hold on one second.
Okay. Let me see. Grady Judd. Yeah, reminds me of Chip Ray, who is now in Congress. See, I wish I knew who Chip Ray was. This is where the Canadian in me is lost. But yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about California, and I can only imagine, the things that they see on a daily. There's another show that I watched, and it's called Two Fired Cops, and if you guys are interested, you should check out their channel, because they talk about all kinds of shit, like real deal talk, like just like us. And some of the stories that they tell you are just disgusting and repulsive and shocking. Do you know who Chip Ray is, Mr. Smith?
I know the name. I don't know about.
He
I
said
know
is now who is now in
right. I know he's saying
Congress.
about law enforcement background. I don't know. I know the name, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. You don't pay attention until you need it. Then you see it. That's well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, up until a few years ago, like I was kind of oblivious to anything, and then I started to open my eyes. And the unfortunate thing is, once you see all this shit, you can't unsee it, and then it really taints your opinion of people who you thought were supposed to be good people, and it turns out to be like, you know, in my opinion, criminals in uniform. He was also a sheriff, Louisiana, I think. Hmm.
I'm looking them up now just to educate myself because I really
Yeah,
don't.
I'm kind of curious too.
I don't
I'm kind
know.
of curious too.
I know like I said, I definitely know the name. I just don't know his background. So
But this is why I enjoy having conversations like this, especially with people from different geographical areas, because like, then you get to learn things and maybe find out what works, what doesn't, and compare it to, your city, country, state, province, whatever, and just see how things work all the way around. I know Canada is very different. Can't say I'm a fan lately. I love my
so
country, afraid of my government, ashamed of my government.
so under Chip Roy's official website, U.S. Congress,
Uh-huh.
21st District of Texas,
Okay.
he doesn't list anything as being law enforcement. It all has to do. Let's see, federal. Uh, Being a advisor to the governor, federal prosecutor, investment banking analyst. Now he does hold a BS and MA from University of Virginia and a Juris Doctorate from University of Texas. I don't see anything about him being a cop or working
Um,
in law enforcement. I
I'm
might be.
not sure.
I'm
I'm
going
not
off
sure if
his
this.
official,
Sorry, go ahead.
just off his official. It's roy.house.gov, so it's his official government website. Chip Roy, U.S. Congress, 21st District of Texas. Now, maybe he didn't put in anything about if he did have a law enforcement career, he may have left that out. That's fine, but it just doesn't show that
He says,
on.
oh, okay, thought he was. Maybe I got the Polk County guy swapped in my head with him. No problem. Hmm.
Yeah, no big deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, Grady Judd, Polk County, Florida Sheriff's Office. Yep.
It's funny because I watch so many different channels and, a lot of them are based out of the US, and it's like even channels that are like different genres and have nothing to do with one another. And then you hear some of the same names and it's like, this is crazy. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
No, I can dig it.
hey, my rats one. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, I don't know. I just hope that eventually, I don't know, like, the old saying comes to mind, like the squeaky wheel gets, or what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Gets
Like, I
squeaky
mean,
wheel gets
eventually,
Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease is what my mom always said.
yeah. And you would think that like these people that are in these areas or districts would listen and have a little bit of self-awareness to what their people are saying, but most of them just could give zero fucks and are just there to collect their paychecks, right? Like, and the horror stories you hear of people that are supposed to be high up within these agencies, and like they sound worse than like, um worse than the average bear, let's just say. So it's disappointing because these people are entrusted with a position, of high authority, and they do nothing positive with it, and just seem to use it as a means to get out of everything, basically.
Well, I can tell you for a fact after I left my large agency,
Hmm.
a couple years after, they created a civilian assistant chief of police position. Now, you can't be a police officer, like
Hmm.
carry a gun, wear a badge, enforce law, and things like that, unless you are trained and certified. And that pretty
Right.
much goes for every state in the
Right.
country.
Yeah.
And my agency, well, the county government and then the police department, so we're gonna just to try to. This all goes on to the whole anti-police movement, the whole BLM thing. We're gonna try to appease them and look good, and we're gonna create this civilian assistant chief's position,
Hmm.
and they did, and
Right.
they hired a guy. So
Okay.
This is his. They actually put him in a police uniform and actually gave him a badge. It said
Oh,
assistant.
this is not going to end well.
uh, Patches. It said police and the whole thing. Well, for this fuck, it was a costume. It was a costume for this fuck because he was never.
Yeah,
He was completely had no training, no education, no experience related to law enforcement.
that's
And they,
terrifying.
they dressed him up like a cop, right?
Yeah.
And he was there for like a year.
Uh-huh.
And then somebody got smart and we're like, this is just window dressing and it's not even legal. So
Yeah. And it's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
yeah. And yeah, bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then the other thing they did, which was horrendous, which
Uh-huh.
gives they still have a bruised eye for this.
Uh-uh.
We had law enforcement officers, like a commander that was in charge of the public information office, like the PIO, the news media stuff. And then you have a couple different officers underneath that. Like I told you, or at the beginning of this, I did that there.
Right.
TDY.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, when all this anti-political, we're going to make a director. We're going to create this new position, the director of the Public Information Office of Civilian.
Oh, geez.
And yeah.
Nothing could go wrong there.
Well, yeah, and everything has gone wrong. They still and they're still dealing with it. There's still a couple sworn officers that are, trained and experienced in doing that. And the person they hired was just a token of
Yeah.
news media representation and things, like no real grounded experience and things like that. Just a disaster, an absolute disaster. And I say token, they're just trying to appease the political and whatever. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I do like the idea of civilians being involved, but I certainly don't think that that's the answer.
Hold on, my channel. Yes, they gave him an unmarked police car.
What?
He's asking, did they give him a clown car too? Yes, they did. They gave him a county unmarked police car. And I will tell you this, if it had lights and sirens in it, that would be completely illegal. But they did give him an unmarked police car, department unmarked police car, the civilian assistant chief of police. But hey, who am I?
That's
Bay 8th, what's up?
insanity. Hey, Joe. Hey, Suze. Yeah, that's insanity. Like I said, I do like the idea of the public being involved, but not in any sort of like official management capacity, and certainly not armed without any formal education, training, or knowledge.
So full disclosure, I never saw any photo of this clown with a gun, but they did give him a full regular police uniform and a full regular police dress uniform, and gave him an unmarked police car to take home and to drive around in. But he's only there for like a year.
Do you know how many things could go friggin' wrong with that shit?
Oh, I got a pretty good idea.
I have a lot of good ideas, but they're not good ideas when it comes down to it. But like, holy, yeah. My mind is spinning there. Like, you could wreak all kinds of fucking havoc, and probably for quite some time before anybody even caught on. You know what I mean?
Well,
but hey, what could go wrong there?
And remember too, where I worked, it bordered Washington D.C., so that's part of the problem too.
Well,
yeah, that's where I retired from. But
yeah,
and then the feds are they're all they're fucked up too. But it is what it is.
Well, This is why I enjoy our conversations, because you tell it like it is, and like it's, I mean, I do too, but I mean, I didn't have the education that you have. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just you know, we don't like what you're gonna say. I'm highly censored here in Canada because we're a bunch of snowflakes, and they're talking about passing some sort of bill where it's like something to do with online hate, and they want to give you life freaking prison for it. I wish I
Oh,
could say I'm even kidding about it, but it's like, oh man, well, hey,
yeah. Look, I did the computer crimes and forensic stuff, and I know there's different laws and things out there, but you know, our politicians, aside from taking control of like places like or for profit private corporations like you know, Google, Meta,
yeah,
whoever, Facebook, Google, you got
yeah,
YouTube, Instagram.
Instagram,
I
yeah,
call it Instafuck, but whatever. I hate them
and
too.
fake book.
Faceplant, yeah, Facebook, Faceplant, I call it. They all need to just go away. They're stupid. YouTube needs to go away too. They're part of it. They're Google owned and
Yeah, they
operated.
are.
They're corrupt.
They've had my number for years, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
But anyway,
but that's okay, because like my goal was never and never will be monetized on here. I will
no,
not be under the thumb.
I'm not.
Um,
I'm not going that route. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
not going my. I got like 2,300 and some subscribers. I'm not going. And they dropped the requirements to it. Like when I first started, it was you have to have at least 1,000 or something, and then
yeah, yeah.
last couple few months they dropped it down to I don't know
500 or something.
Yeah, but I'm like I have no interest in it. I'm not like you said because they control the finance part of it. And I'm like, nope.
Well, I mean, they already control what I say as it is, and I'm not on their payroll. You know what I
Right.
mean? I have no desire. Like I work. I don't need YouTube.
Right.
So
Well, Mob Rats Exposed is going to go live after you, and it is almost 3:30 Eastern Standard Time here in the States. So I'm going to get off of here.
all right. Well, I know. I'm sorry it's late. I'm surprised you're
No,
up. Thank you for doing this,
no, it's fine.
and we'll catch up again over the weekend, hopefully when it's not so late. But I work afternoons, so it's very hard, and I do appreciate it because
No, no problem.
working afternoons, I feel isolated from everybody. Like I don't have, every time I come home and I'm ready to talk or something, everybody's sleeping.
No, it's cool, and we can continue this conversation. Go to a part 2 if you want sometime too. That's
Oh,
fine.
absolutely. And I hope this weekend we can do that, because I really I see a lot of benefit from these conversations. So thank you again. Sorry to keep you up so late. Thank you
That's
everybody
fine.
for watching.
Yeah, thank you all in chat. Y'all are awesome, and
Yes.
go check out once Kim's done. Go check out Mobs Rats Exposed, and I guess we'll see you on the next one. But thank you, Kim.
All right, thank you. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch up with you soon. Head over to MRE. He's going live next. So thanks guys.